Are you frustrated by stress eating and weight gain? Like, you leave that stressful meeting and it's like a tractor beam that's pulling you right towards the vending machine, or you've just had that stressful, crappy week at work and there's a pint of Ben & Jerry's just waiting to make everything better. Why does this happen and how can you stop it? Hi. I'm Jenny Evans. I'm a resiliency expert, I'm a speaker and an executive coach, and I also happen to be a certified nutritionist. I'm going to explain why stress creates these strong, urgent, powerful cravings for crap food that are pretty much completely resistant to willpower, and how you can take back control. Let's get started. All right, though, before we jump into the how, we need to just back up a little bit so that we can understand the why. So when you experience a stressful event, you are initiating the fight or flight response. And what is pivotal to your fight or flight response is energy, fuel. No, not that kind, this kind. The fuel control freak is cortisol. And when it comes to stress, cortisol is all about more. Cortisol makes us ravenously hungry. I mean, we just want more, more, more. It is like your grandma on double coupon day at the Piggly Wiggly, or like some of you during COVID with the toilet paper. Do you ever notice you never crave broccoli or kale when you're stressed out? Cortisol knows that there is a lot of energy in fat and sugar. So this is hardwired what we want to crave and search out. All right, good example of how this whole process can affect us is pretty much my entire college experience. Super stressful time of my life, and I just had no clue how the physiology of stress actually worked. So I had no clue what was happening or how to stop it, or that my hair was definitely big enough. Yep, Jenny, that's enough salon selectives. Okay, so when we're stressed, cortisol is produced, and research shows that cortisol makes us crave highly processed carbohydrates, which are high glycemic. And we're gonna get to why this is a problem in just a minute, but how this would manifest itself is that college Jenny would make lunch or dinner that really just consisted of these cornbread twists that come out of that tube that pops and scares the bejesus out of you, just dipped into raspberry jam. I would eat an entire box of Nilla wafers. Like, I blew through so many bags of licorice, and of course, all of these were fat-free foods because it was the 90s. One of the problems with eating high glycemic foods is that it causes a spike in our blood glucose levels, which is then followed by a crash, which then makes us crave more of these processed carbohydrates. So the more of these foods I ate, the more of them I wanted in excess amounts. And oh yeah, research shows that stress depletes our willpower. So it made it doubly, triply, I don't know, we're probably at quadruply hard at this point to eat a moderate amount of food and eat the right amount of foods. And stress and cortisol puts our body into fat storage mode, specifically around our midsection. So during college, was not really happy with my level of body fat. Well, shocker. So now during this process, it actually creates more stress because I was gaining weight and I just felt like I didn't have any control over my food choices. I actually went to Overeaters Anonymous during this time because I could not control the foods that I was wanting and eating, in addition to how much of those foods I was eating. Like, I thought there was something mentally wrong with me. What I didn't understand was this was all physiological. In a nutshell, you are in this downward spiral and you don't know how to stop it, and it's really hard to stop it. It just sucks you in and it makes you frustrated, it makes you feel weak, it makes you feel powerless, it makes you pretty dang stressed out. So here's what to do. There are two really pivotal things that you can do to get yourself off that stress roller coaster. The first one is to eat foods that are low glycemic. Now, I have an entire list of glycemic index foods, more of an explanation on this in my book, and you can find a link to that down below. But I want to give you some things that will help you to figure out the glycemic index of a food. So 3 things make a food low glycemic. The more fat, the more fiber, and the more protein a food has. So the more of those 3 things a food has, the lower its glycemic index, which means glucose is just released into the bloodstream a little bit more slowly so that we don't get that stressful spike and crash. So again, you can find the list in my book, but you can also do a little bit of reading of the labels or thinking about what's in a food when you're on the fly. So for instance, apple juice is high glycemic because when you look at the label, there's no fiber in here, there's no fat in here, and there's no protein in here. So that makes it really high glycemic versus an apple actually has a good amount of fiber. So the glycemic index of an apple is going to be lower than that of juice. You know, something like an energy bar. Now, I'm not saying that these bars are healthier than each other, but just simply how their glycemic index is going to affect you. So something like this, there's only 3.5 grams of fat, only 1 gram of fiber, and 1 gram of protein. So these guys are going to be pretty high glycemic, whereas something like this has 7 grams of fat, it has 4 grams of fiber, and 4 grams of protein. This heavy hitter here actually has 9 grams of fat, it has 5 grams of fiber, and 12 grams of protein. So really low glycemic. You know, things like pretzels. Basically, this is just, what is it? Salt and wheat. So there's only 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of fiber, and 3 grams of protein. So these are high glycemic. Same thing goes with something like a rice cake. In this serving size, there's 3 grams of fat, no fiber, 1 gram of protein. Any kind of a dairy product is typically lower glycemic because this is full of protein. There is some fat in here. Most dairy products don't do great on fiber, but just for example, cottage cheese. For this one, 2 grams of fat, no fiber, but 13 grams of protein. So again, I'm not telling you don't eat these things or eat these things based on how healthy or not they are, but just understanding what they can do to your blood glucose levels, which then can create stress in the body. Other examples of low glycemic foods include the animals. Sorry, vegetarians and vegans, but the flesh of an animal. So chicken, turkey, fish, beef, pork, very high in protein. Anything that an animal produces. Dairy is low glycemic. Eggs are low glycemic. Vegetables like peppers, broccoli, tomatoes. Fruits like apples, grapefruit, grapes, my personal favorite, pears, and grains like quinoa, wild rice, or barley. Other foods that fall into the high glycemic category are things like bagels, white bread, cakes, candies, cookies, chips, a lot of processed snack foods or fast foods, French fries, potatoes. You're probably just like, Jenny, these are all the good things. A lot of cereals are high glycemic, as are sports drinks. All right, so let's say that you have some serious cravings and you don't want to mess things up. Here is how you kind of have your cake and eat it too, that if you're really craving a high glycemic food, you can actually put a high glycemic food with a low glycemic food, and that moderates the glycemic index. For example, let's say you're totally jonesing for some chocolate. Well, have some chocolate covered nuts because nuts are low glycemic. Maybe you just really want pretzels. You want that salty, crunchy. You could combine it with some cheese or some hummus. Maybe what would really delight you is a bagel. You could totally have it, but maybe what you add is either some peanut butter, maybe some cream cheese, or sliced turkey. If you want that crunchy, salty, I have a favorite chronic cracker that I go to. I have to keep wheat out of my diet, but these are a lower glycemic cracker. If you're really just jonesing for something sweet, things like I love to do vanilla yogurt and throw in some frozen chocolate chips. Another one that I like to go to is some oatmeal with peanut butter and brown sugar. That is an old lady snack, but I love it. And the second way to get off that stress roller coaster is to actually rid your body of cortisol, which is what's making you hungry for those high-fat, high-sugar foods in the first place. And if you know me at all, you know what I'm gonna say. What science and research shows the fastest and most effective way to rid your body of cortisol is through a microburst. And if you don't know what a microburst is, watch this video to see how you can rid your body of cortisol in 60 seconds or less.